What happens when you take the deadliest PvPers on the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft, put them into an arena with no way out, and then force them to fight to the death? Well, you get what's known as the Pitfight, an underground fighting tournament where players compete for real-world money. A gorgeous arena is constructed for every single pit fight that takes place, allowing builders to show off just as much as the PvPers. People assume that using hacks in Minecraft automatically means you have no skill, but hacker versus hacker Crystal PvP takes an insane amount of coordination, positioning, and being able to manage multiple hacks at once, all without getting kicked by the server's anti-cheat plugins. It's very much skill-based, and it's actually very fun to watch, especially in such beautiful and awe-inspiring locations. Over 13 pit fights have taken place in secret over the past year, and we were invited to the most recent one. Considering these events are dangerous even for spectators, things are going to get interesting. So join me as we cover the history of 2b2t's pit fight and witness the chaos of one in person. It's going to be wild. Now, remember how recently I was sponsored by HelloFresh? Well, Factor has become part of the HelloFresh family, and they've been sending me delicious meals right to my door that are ready in less than 2 minutes, no prep required. Since I live a pretty busy and active lifestyle, Factor meals have made my life a lot easier. They offer a wide variety of different dietary options, and you can choose how many meals per week you would like. They're delicious and nutritious. This coming fall season, you can count on Factor for fast, tasty meals that fit your lifestyle. Head to go.factor75.com/FitMC130 and use code FitMC130 to get $130 off across 6 boxes. That's go.factor75.com/FitMC130 and use code FitMC130. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring today's video. So how exactly does a secret underground fighting tournament on a Minecraft server get started in the first place? Well, it all began in 2021. A group called Absention was looking for a way to spread their influence on the server. Their leader, who has a very interesting name, came up with the idea of hosting a large-scale PvP event. He had always enjoyed watching Crystal PvP fights, but the thing is, on 2b2t, it's hard to get close enough to watch one without getting killed. By having a team of builders construct beautiful arenas across all 3 of the server's dimensions, and by having actual cash prizes for the winners, it would motivate the best PvPers to participate and spectators to come watch. This would bring legitimacy to the event and to the group. The PvPers would also act as protection, as griefers would be less likely to show up, knowing they would be ganged up on by some of the best fighters. It was a great idea, but was easier said than done. Considering how unhinged some of the best PvPers can be, 3 rules were put in place to keep them in line. If you're killed, you leave the pit, or you attack spectators, you're disqualified. And on-site referees are the ones paying attention to make sure players are following these rules. Other than that though, anything goes in the arena, and you can use whatever means necessary to win, including teaming up with your fellow competitors if necessary. The members of Absention have each played a role in contributing to the event, ranging from building to supplying materials and even providing the cash prizes. Because of all this hard work, the format has been incredibly popular within the community. Since the beginning, they've run 13 successful events, which has allowed them to iron out any issues. The prizes have ranged from hundreds of dollars in cash to free priority queue, and the list goes on. Sometimes the environment ended up being an additional hazard built into the arenas, such as falling into the void in the end dimension. The 3 rules helped keep the event somewhat civil, but were still considered dangerous to attend, so you had to come prepared to fight even if you were just spectating. When I eventually heard about the pit fights, I wanted to document one anonymously to get the true experience. But since it's an underground fighting tournament, getting to it is not exactly easy. All fighters have to fill out an application in order to be added to the roster and be eligible for the cash prizes. And if you want to show up early as a spectator, you have to know someone in the group. Luckily, one of the members agreed to invite me on one of my anonymous alt accounts so that I could see things for myself. The coordinates were not too far away from spawn, so I was able to arrive a few hours before the event took place. I was greeted by some of the builders and was given a tour of the arena. It was absolutely massive and made out of solid obsidian. The statue of the Minotaur in the center was inspired by Greek mythology. Underneath, the spectator area was made in a very clever way. It was completely submerged in water with lanes of air pockets available that you could stand in. Once in place, you could use free cam to see the action above. Water prevents end crystals from being placed, making it harder for spectators to be killed, but you still had to pay attention for melee weapons. With less than an hour left, the fighters began arriving. Everyone gathered at the submerged tables underneath the arena to socialize and prepare their gear. Your choice of inventory could make a huge difference. If you brought more totems, for example, the auto totem hack could keep you alive longer, but then you would have less room for things like XP bottles and replacement armor. Choices like this could be the difference between life and death in the arena. At this point, I was still anonymous, and I was hoping it would stay that way. Once everyone had arrived and was ready, the fighters and referees all took their places in the obsidian maze above. Pitfight 13 was about to begin. Right away, I noticed players had formed alliances to increase their chances of survival, as anyone who was a lone wolf would be an easy kill. But they would eventually have to turn on each other if they wanted to win the money, so it was a very interesting dynamic. The first 5 minutes started out slowly, with groups getting a feel for their opponent's behavior, chipping away at each other's armor and memorizing the pattern of the obsidian maze. Crystals were the primary weapon being used, but some fighters chose more traditional weapons. At around the 10-minute mark, things got much crazier. The fighting was becoming far more aggressive, and players were using XP bottles to repair their mending gear. This is where I started to see players getting picked off and eliminated. The gear from the fallen players could benefit those still in the fight, assuming it wasn't immediately destroyed in the explosions. Since inside the arena you could use any means necessary to win, it didn't take long for some to start spawning withers. Not only would they attack players, but the holes they would make in the floor made it possible to fall out of the arena and technically be disqualified, so you had to watch your step. By the 20-minute mark, it was pure chaos. I witnessed firsthand fighters escaping the arena just to attack spectators, so I had to watch my back while still observing the action above. This was easily the largest crystal fight I had ever seen on the server in person, and it must have taken a lot for these players to have kept their cool under pressure. By the 35-minute mark, the arena was a war zone. Players were pulling out all the stops to gain the upper hand. Some were placing crystals through solid walls to attack opponents on the other side. Others were using e-chests to restock their gear in the middle of battle. It was wild. As fighters were eliminated, some of them went back in to help their friends, which technically was allowed by the rules. You have to remember that despite all of this insanity, the event was still running incredibly smoothly by 2b2t's standards. Now, the spectator area was constantly under attack, so I could only observe the fights in small bursts while checking to make sure I wasn't taking damage. To see hacker versus hacker combat at some of the highest levels was truly amazing to see. Eventually though, my account was targeted, so I was forced to exit the area and fly around to the top of the arena. Others had the exact same idea, but even there, spectating was no longer safe. The only way to survive was to stay on the move. The entire fight lasted 90 minutes. Since I had to focus on keeping myself alive, I wasn't able to get the final kill on camera, but a player named Jaden ended up winning the event and the cash reward. After the event had concluded, the arena had taken heavy damage from both the fighters and the withers. Despite being such a chaotic few hours, it was an incredibly fun event even as a spectator. The greater Minecraft community doesn't really appreciate the time and effort required to become good at this style of PvP, so it's cool that Obscension has given the community a fun way to come together and duke it out in beautiful locations, while rewarding the actual skill of the participants. Even as a spectator, we survived 2b2t's Deadliest Fighting Tournament, so if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and follow my socials. Take it easy, Fit Fam, and if you enter the arena, good luck out there.